and so on. It's a lot of work, and so we're glad that players are happy with it so far. Obviously, we have a few more year one champions to do some updating to. I don't have an ETA for that. It'll take a little bit because they're big updates that take a lot of work. Hellish Dream. Can we have Justin at some point to have a serious discussion about the theory of design of some of the champions? I will pass it along to Justin. He's crazy busy right now working on stuff I can't talk about yet. But I will. It's a great thing to ask about when he is on stream, because that is actually when he can start to get into what the idea was behind different design choices and why characters were built different ways. We're at, is it 47, 46, 47 champions? We're rapidly approaching 50. We're at the point where it's harder to remember how many there are. So yeah, it's always interesting feedback. Shang Yu, when will we be able to say familiar positions? I can't give you a date on changes to the familiars or formation systems. So I can't really answer that question. But like, we're aware that it's something that players want, and we are aware that they're hoping to get it soon, and we will do what we can. Krelili, which cat in Idle Champions do you think is the best cat? Birdsong, obviously. Red Seer. Any chance of getting more levels like Mad Wizard? Gem farming is a natural part of the game, and it would be nice to have some variety. I can pass that feedback along to the team. When designing Mad Wizard, the intent was not to create the most efficient 30 or 50 or whatever areas for individual gem farming runs. Like, it was designed as an adventure. It just happened to be one where monsters have an increased spawn rate because of the nature of the adventure, and it has turned into a gem farming thing. Now, that being said, we are aware that that's why players like replaying the adventure, and we keep that in mind when we design stuff moving forward. There's I can't get into that yet. Not yet the time to talk about those things, but we keep that in mind. Red Seer. Lorenic. When applying a blacksmith contract and all the portraits are up, would it be possible to see average item level for each champion? So questions about being able to more easily see the item levels on champion champion pieces of equipment, and on seeing average item levels for a champion have been coming up more and more frequently of late. So when I first received that feedback, I passed it along to the team, and every time I receive it again, I also pass it along to the team. So it's something that the team is aware of. At the same time, it's not something that's likely to be a high enough priority that if they're going to do anything about it, they will address it anytime soon. So that does not mean don't tell me, because please do. Like, all feedback is valid and all feedback is important, and like, whether it's good or bad, we want it. So feel free, and I will continue to pass it along. There was a time when we said we would not be adding or changing Ashara's selection of bonds, hoping that players would instead opt for different champions, but we did eventually add another tier of specializations that added more bonds to Ashara, and that's something that may happen again in the future. That's not a quote. That's not confirmed, but like, it's always a possibility. Our approach to champion balance and stuff has changed. So, things always change. Yeah. All right. Jetpack Fuel. When will we get a Corey familiar? Binwin feels lonely. I think you mean Crowy. Or the Criddler. I like that idea. It's a good idea. I will pass that along. Crab Kolash. Love the first year one champion update so far. Woo, companions. But any word on endgame / activities to do for currently inactive champions? Not yet. I don't know how many of you checked out the community Q&A this week. It was quite busy. We unveiled the first announcements for quite a few things, but also started talking a little bit more about what you could expect across the rest of the third quarter of this year. We are not yet able to talk about some of the things in that third quarter. Like, it is not an example of everything that's coming out, I should state. That being said, if there's something that isn't included in there, it's not something we can talk about yet. So what I can say is that yes, you know, having more end game, more content that appeals to the top 1 to 10% of players is something that is on our minds, that we have plans for, and that's about as far as I can get into it right now. Alrighty, with the redesign of Dritz, we got an updated Guinevere. Is there any chance we can update the tigers that Azaka summons because the tiny tiger legs are weird art? I can pass the feedback along to see what the rest of the team thinks. Just let me try and kill Arveus with this team. I mean, I assume they're good enough to do it, but I'm just gonna fire off all my ultimates anyways. Because yeah, just guaranteeing that I kill him quickly is more satisfying. Caltrops aren't working so hella hot on the dragon, but I guess it's also a dragon. Like, would it even notice? Probably not. Yeah, probably not. Yeah, no, he's definitely gonna die without any additional. Oh yeah, I'm only at the 400 one. I know only. I mean, I'm far compared to the average player, I'm sure, but it's the 450 and 500 ones you gotta really pay attention to. I will probably die on stream to the one at 450 because I will be busy answering questions instead of paying attention. Anyways, so the only thing I can promise Hellish Stream is that Azaka will be looked at with the rest of the year one champions because, again, we kind of spread out the love across the selection of characters and focus very much on the companions of the hall this time around. There are quite a few more year one event champions and as well as Azaka to look at and hitch, so we will. Excuse me. If you have, say, 5 familiars on 5 champions and you get enough gold to do an upgrade to one of them, is the one that gets the upgrade random? So I don't know offhand. Iltasine? I don't know. What I can explain is, so when you put a familiar on the ultimate bar and it starts moving around, from when you dropped it off, it will click, or at least it will try to click every 30 seconds. So if it works the same way as that, then you dropped all the familiars on the champions. They're not all clicking in sync. So whichever one got dropped down first is probably the one that's most likely to get clicked. But it's also, yeah, it's just kind of, it'll probably be random because when you earn the gold, it's whichever one clicks first. But it's yeah, they don't click in sync. They all have independent timers, I believe. Tigers are ambush predators and have massive legs. That's true. And like I'll pass the feedback along to the art team because I honestly at this point it's been so long since I've used Azaka because I don't do Azaka farming. I don't actually remember what her tigers look like. I've been using the companions since this change, and before that I was using cron formations, so I never see Azaka. Why is the music so sad? It's just changing it up, Kralili. This track is called Dark Forest. It's from one of the old Codename Entertainment games called Shards of Titan, which was a beautiful game, but not all games get to live, unfortunately. Part of me wants the company to make a sequel to it at some point, but also you don't really make sequels to games that don't perform the way you want them to. So, anyways, that's where this music comes from, and there's a few other tracks from it as well. I just like the ones that fade into the background a little better. Yeah. Because it's just less of a focus. I think what I will do actually is I'll even turn it down further, so it's a little less distracting. But it's just so that you don't hear the subtle hum of the AC unit above me or the awkward silence when I'm not speaking. So just to have something there to kind of mute that out. And I can only I like the music for our game, but I've listened to it a lot. I can't listen to it on stream anymore. Scarab Phoenix, can you add a sandbox mode where we can put any champions in any spots and choose our own spots and layouts without 10 champion limit? I understand why players would want that mode. It's not likely to happen anytime soon. But I can pass it along. I mean, I don't know how much work it will be to assemble. And it's very much a quality of life feature that we understand why players want to do it, but it's not something that we're focused on when there are so many higher priority updates and features that we really want to get done. So, I'll pass it along to the devs, and we'll see. Ryk Henry, how many of the hidden chests have been discovered so far? Oh, I assume you're referring to the 10 hidden combinations that we put out. Let me double check for a definitive. Oh, I see. Okay, Erica just sent me a picture of Azaka's tigers. Their legs are kind of thin. I understand. Yeah, they look more like cheetahs. Okay. Yeah, because tigers are they're burly. They're 900-pound cats. So I understand now better why you're giving that feedback. Yeah, I'll pass it along to the team. It might be something that we have time to address with that balance update. We have a pretty rigid schedule for content creation that we adhere to, and so this is something that might get pushed back a few times. But certainly the second half of the Year 1 Champion balance update would be the most ideal time to address it if we're going to do anything. So yeah, I'll pass it along. Anyways, I'm going to look up which hidden combinations have been discovered, because let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's either 6 or 7 out of 10. I think it's 6 out of 10 that have been discovered. There's a post from me in the official Discord, discord.gg/idlechampions, where I listed out 10 spots, and as they have been discovered, I have been writing them out. So, like the A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L one that gives you a silver chest. Like, it just says it in the list. And so there's a number of blank spots still. 7 out of 10? We're at 7 out of 10. Okay. So 7 have been discovered. We can always look in the system to see if somebody discovered one and hasn't posted it. And I will follow up with our data insights guy about that after the stream, and maybe update it in the Discord if that has been the case. But we're kind of I don't want to change the lists until people discover and share them, because some people will discover them and never share it. But ideally they would. The last 3 are a little more challenging. There was a really easy one and some other easier ones, and they steadily get more difficult as you go through it. So I don't anticipate them being discovered easily. But if we get too far into the year before they're discovered, we'll start giving hints. Duncan, any chances that we will get the announced Evergreen champions this year? That's not really something I can speculate on at this time. Yeah. Sorry we talked about them so early. There's a lot of stuff behind the scenes that dictates how our content schedule works, and they just got straight up got shoved back a few times, and yeah. Did you see the Minsk Funko Pop with Boo? No, I did not. I gotta look for that now. Look it up. I don't. I'm not able to find it. But, I mean, I like the idea of a Minsk and Boo Funko Pop. There's like Funko Pops of everything. It didn't pop up for me when I did a quick search for it, Supply 215. So if there is one, please share a link, because I want to see it. What did you talk about in the Q&A? I don't participate, unfortunately. Well, if you follow one of the links in chat to the Idle Champions subreddit, the community Q&A will probably still be on the front page. I answer what I can answer, right? Not every question will always be able to be answered, because there are a lot of reasons that I can't necessarily get into. Things like, NDAs about stuff that we're working on, so we literally can't talk about stuff, etc. So there's stuff that you can't answer. But basically focused on the fact that players have been asking when we intended to retire our Founders Pack DLC, and we gave a date. As well, we will be retiring the current familiars in the in-game shop that you pay money for. However, over the course of the month of August, each one of them will go on sale for a last time before they disappear. And there may be ways to unlock or earn them in the future, but nothing that we can talk about at this time. So, yeah, that's kind of where we are at with that. Not a question. Just want to say thank you for bringing justice to Trits. You're welcome, Loose Changer Pat. That's something that we cared about. I know it took 18 months to get around to doing it. Yeah, it's. I mean, it's having the time to go back to content that you've already finished working on, addressed as many of the bugs as you can, and moved on from is like it's hard. Like you have to like find parts of your schedule where you can start putting that stuff in. And like we've done a number of hires. You know, we have more devs working for Idle Champions since Dritz went live at the end of 2017. So yeah, we are glad that Dritz is now living up to, you know, decades of Forgotten Realms novels and history at this point. More of a suggestion. It would be very neat if while 10 champions are busy on a Tomb of Annihilation run, another party could be running a simultaneous Waterdeep run. The idle nature of the game focused around different parties and campaigns would lend itself well to that. I feel kind of real D&D too. We hear you. You know, the vast majority of the memory usage for the game is around the individual images, like because we use like high quality images for everything. So having two versions of the game running at the same time is not something that we're ever going to try to do. Now that being said, you know, finding uses for, because what we see out of this is that there are approaching 50 champions in the game, which means that, you know, if you have a 10 champion formation, you're approaching 40 champions doing nothing for you, that are just hanging out on the bench. So, you know, it is very much on our minds to find something for them to do. Question. I find scientific notation a bit weird in idle games. Am I the only one that thinks this? I don't think you're the only one that thinks this, Legendary Dragon 75, but at the same time, at a glance, because the numbers get so big and it gets harder and harder, like, you know, just remembering what all of the individual letters mean at different times. Some of them get a little bit confusing because they use the same letter, but one's capital or lowercase. You know, it just gets a little bit challenging. Oh, I see concept art of D&D Funko Pops. Oh, so they're not actual ones, but there was concept art of them. Let me see this. There's a Boba Fett one. That looks sweet. Speed Racer. Gladiator. Where's it? How far into this is the D&D one? Oh, there we go. Minsk with Boo. Oh, that would be awesome. I'd have that on my desk. Although, you know what? I think I'd go for the Mind Flayer one first. Yeah, so if that's going to exist, then yeah, sweet. Anyways, Legendary Dragon. So I don't think that it's weird that you find it strange to use scientific notation instead. But the reason that many of us use it is because of how easy it is to like look at the screen and be like, oh, my static TPS is E39 or E139. Okay, cool. And you can more easily figure out the numbers because it's simpler to view. And, you know, once the math starts getting ridiculous, it's just easier, in my opinion. If it's not for you, then cool. I am making lemon pepper chicken strips. Do you want some? That sounds wonderful. I just ate. I had leftover pasta from dinner last night, but thank you for offering. Evilmond, will players ever be allowed to make their own custom skins for characters? No, they won't. The nature of the way the game is built is just going to prevent that probably forever. That being said, we will be creating more outfits for champions as we move forward. The thing about how the game is made is that like each outfit is actually redrawing the champion and then, you know, basically layering everything over their animation. It's a little different than 3D modeling in that you basically recreate the champion. But luckily you can just kind of like take the pieces and put them over the other animations. And so like it's faster than creating a new champion from scratch, but it's very time intensive. And it's it's unlikely that we will ever have a way for there to be custom outfits, skins, etc. For the game. Let's see. Martypedia asking again because the stream borked when I did earlier. What is the totally non-existent conspiracy behind all dwarves, starting with a B? You know, that's a good question. What's does anybody know what offhand what Binwin's granddaughter's name is? The one that's in the Table Titans comic, because I don't think that it's. Yeah, I don't think that it's a B. It's Val. Val. Yeah, there we go. Somebody. I was thinking Valerie, but for some reason my name went to Bronwyn, which is not true. But like Bronwyn Bronzebottom seems obvious and a little bit easy. Yeah, we need more dwarves. What can I say? Val, next champion confirmed. No, the next champion coming to the game is not Val Bronzebottom. I arrived late, so forgive me if it was asked or answered already. Will the final Year 1 champions get rebalanced before Year 3 arrives? That's a tough question, Garwar. The roadmap that we have for the third quarter of this year, which includes the start of Year 3, does not in it include the second part of the Year 1 champions balance update. Now, that being said, it's something that we plan to get done when we can. There are quite a few things being worked on for Q3 that are not included in the roadmap because they're not yet at a point where we can talk about them. So take with that what you will. But before September, which is to say, is the next part of the Year 1 champion balance update going to be finished in the next 6 weeks? Unlikely. Is anything planned to address the golden epic for Zorbu changing to self DPS? I know I specifically purchased this one for all of champion percent damage. I mean, you're welcome to open an in-game support ticket if you're unhappy with your purchase. Zorbu's golden epic is not the only one that has ever changed. It's really about all we can do about it. Let's talk about Dash. Any levels with range mobs, cancel it, even if you're insta-killing them with familiars. Can something be done about this? I mean, I can pass that feedback along slightly, Lisa, but I don't know if it's something that we consider to be a bug, because not every champion's every ability is supposed to be, amazing or awesome or being used at every single time. Now, that being said, there are contexts in which it's like, okay, if like the enemies are already dead, then maybe it should stop working. But it's interesting because there are so many adventures where Dash will be on literally right up until you hit your wall, and then there are other ones where it will constantly stop working. So the best I could do for you is pass that feedback along. But as far as I know, it is intended. Let's see. Dylan, it's been a long time since we've had a caster DPS as a new champion. We know about the Evergreen and Arrowist champions. Are there more in design that, while I'm sure you cannot talk about, you can at least mention a yes or no? Are we designing more caster DPS champions? Absolutely. EGN Smith. Are there plans to do more challenges like the Omen ones? I found them very engaging. We did too. We were actually like... while Chris hasn't put together his report on how the either the High Rollers Rogues Gambit challenges went or the C Team weekly challenges have gone, I'm sure he's on it. No, all sarcasm aside, as just a sort of general overview, we were very happy with how the latest weekly challenges version went. And we are absolutely looking at including things like it again in the future, but we don't have anything we could share about them yet. Really 88. As a new player, how can I obtain Dritz as a champion? Thanks. So Dritz is unlocked through a variant in the Grand Tour of the Sword Coast campaign once you have completed enough of the adventures in the campaign. Now, it used to be that it would take, a few weeks to a month of gameplay of going through the adventures and, earning equipment and favor levels and such to get to the point where you could unlock druids. That being said, there have been quite a few changes to the game since then. There are quite a few more champions available since then who have, and your results will vary across, your adventures depending on what you've unlocked and so on. So I couldn't tell you how long it takes anymore, but there is a challenging variant in the Grand Tour of the Sword Coast campaign. I want to say it's 15 adventures that you have to have completed in it in order to get there. I can't remember if that's exactly it, but there's a number of them, and that's how you get him. So you just keep playing. He's an Evergreen champion, and once you unlock him, his equipment will show up in gold and silver chests. So I think 25 says simply 215. Maybe I unlocked Dritz at the end of 2017. I don't quite remember it anymore. I do remember. I want to say was it Garwar? Somebody posted a guide in the subreddit at one point talking about how to get Dritz. So I would encourage you to look at that. How obsessed are you with Funko Pops on a scale from 1 to 10? I'm at a 16. A 1. It's not something I really care about, but every once in a while I see one that looks cool where I would consider putting it on my wall or on my desk. Min's going with Boo is pretty awesome, though, I gotta say. I'd give that one an 8. And the Mind Flayer a 10 or an 11. Can you be honest? Which UI do you prefer, console versus desktop? So, like, internally we refer to them as the gamepad UI and then like the mouse and keyboard UI, even though the mouse and keyboard one is also the one for tablets. I think that's tough. I think the aesthetic of the interface is looks a lot more refined and in many ways fits the game better with the gamepad UI. It's pretty, it works really well, but at the same time, like we made some changes to the game with it. That's the gameplay. Like they're just like it's just a little different, right? Like everything's in a slightly different place. But I think I very much prefer this one. And the only reason I don't use it more is because I often play on Steam with the game, like tabbing back and forth between doing work. And so rather than pick up a controller each time, I just use the mouse and keyboard because I'm just doing farming runs or whatever. But I think aesthetically I like the gamepad UI more. Personal preference. Yeah. Do we have other languages like German in the list? We don't currently have any localization intended. The game is going to be in English, no matter where you get it from. But the shop and the access to it in Steam will change. But yeah, we're not going to rewrite the game. There's enough lines of dialogue in our game for a novel at this point, with each adventure added to the game, adding quite a bit more. And we're just not likely to ever translate it into a number of other languages. I said not likely. It doesn't mean it'll never happen, but it's not something that we're looking at exploring at the moment. Killerothy, would you consider running a community competition where people could submit character ideas and designs with a vote to pick one to implement? I mean, absolutely we'd consider it, and it's something that we've talked about and considered before. It's an interesting thing. It's weird though, like picking one player's character to put in as a champion is just kind of tricksy, especially given that there are a number of cool groups of people that we work with. Like we work with Penny Arcade for acquisitions incorporated the C team. We work with high rollers, and so there's we're like adding those characters in the game, and like we're committed to them, and we have a content release schedule to put them in, and then we also have no shortage of amazing characters from the many novels, board games, video games, comics, etc. that we could add. So finding reasons to put in original characters is actually a bit of a challenge for us, given the way that we've built this game. Because like this game is more focused on assembling a party of characters that you love from various media than it is from somebody's, like one person's favorite thing, right? The closest thing to one character that everybody like that somebody loved a lot that got put in was Archon the Cruel, because Joe told us to put him in, and we did. But for the most part, like it's not a way that we approached adding champions. That said, I'll pass the idea along to the team again and see if they are interested in approaching it. But yeah. Might I suggest some sort of achievement / reward for reaching the end of events such as Omens? We didn't. Yeah, I'll pass that along. I don't know if that's something that was overlooked or there was a reason why it wasn't considered. So I'll pass it along. Can you add an achievement for Dritz killing 1,000 orcs? I think Scarab Phoenix, if we were going to add an achievement for Dritz killing orcs, it would be Dritz killing like 1 million orcs. Like, a number more comparable to what he made in the what he's killed in the novels at this point. He's killed so many things. How do you guys decide to make a D&D sprite? I'm not sure I would understand what you mean, Legendary Dragon. Like, the characters that you see on screen are not sprites. So I'm not sure what I understand what you mean there. Like, are you asking about how something is made, in which case I would need to have Justin or Dave in to talk about that aspect, or are you asking about how they're designed, which is like something that only like Adam and our team can speak to? Like, I guess I'm not understanding enough of your questions. So if you could elaborate, Legendary Dragon, please do. Alrighty. Ragged question. Are there plans to make it easier to gear non-standard / Core 12 heroes? That's a tough thing to comment on. What I can say about it is that, we are aware that, as we approach 50 champions, we're approaching 34, 30, what are we at, 33 event champions now? 2 events left, so 15 and 17 is 32. Yeah, so we're at 32 event champions, approaching 34 as we hit our anniversary. Time gate's only showing 3 of them is a challenge. So, we are exploring ideas about how to earn more equipment and item levels and stuff for champions outside the the core and evergreen champions, but like I don't have anything I can share about it because is this dragon going to eat you? Aces high 76. Sorry, I got to that a little after I beat that area. The one at 500 will probably be a challenge. I will probably need to actively play to kill it, assuming I get to it before the end of the stream. I think I will at the rate that I'm going. Serious question this time, not about chicken. With the changes to the Dritz team this time, I'll come home from work or wake up to a boss that is a ridiculous multiplier. 2,000% or higher, but only taken 10% damage. Is this a bug I should report or just mechanics of how things work now? So what that actually is... so what that actually is you're using Narak in your formation with Dritz, and there is an unintended interaction between Narak's Githzerai focus ability and Dritz's it was an icing death that causes enemies to have a chance to miss. And so what's happening for players is they're reaching a point where they get more than 100% chance to miss. Where is it? Dun, dun, dun. Twinkle. Yeah, and the original target has a 50% chance to miss their next attack. And so it's ending up at like 120, 130%, whatever. And so basically every time Dritz hits the boss, they miss. And so they're missing for so long that the boss doesn't get a hit in. And they only need 1 hit to like kill anybody at that point. But that's an unintended interaction that should be addressed sometime in the next couple updates. So you mean sprite as a computer graphics term for... Okay. So the champions aren't sprites. They are drawn in Illustrator and animated in Flash. So they kind of come out looking like sprites, but they're not. They start their lives as AI files. And then they take it and they animate it in Flash. So I hope that answers your question. How is a D&D character picked for Idle Champions? That's a really tough question to ask. That is a perfect question for Chris and not me. Yeah, that's a perfect question for Chris. There are a lot of characters that we, and when I say we, I mean like just the general employees here at Codename Entertainment, just like the characters we like. You know, characters like Dritz, characters like Minsk. We each have our favorites, you know. I still contend that the reason we added Minsk to the game is because that was how we could add Boo to the game. And so we started with Boo, and then Minsk came along for the ride. You know, in terms of picking each one as we go, you know, we started with our core 12, and we focused on the you know, the heroes from Force Grey, as well as a bunch of iconic characters. And, you know, we kind of like came out with a balanced group that we wanted. And then what we look at as we add champions is we try to balance them out as much as we can across you know, races and genders and classes and different combinations, you know, tanks and DPS and support, like trying to just kind of like make sure that we're always adding something new and trying not to add the same thing to the game over and over and over again. Somebody pointed out recently, quite astutely, that we've been pretty focused on melee characters this year, and it's true. The next champion after Shandy is not a melee character, so you know, I can spoil that much. But in terms of picking the characters, like we kind of have like these massive spreadsheets where we have all the lists of, like, you know, Drow, Eladrin, you know, Gnome, etc., all the different races, and then genders, and then classes, and we're like always doing what we can. Like we're looking at them, trying to fill gaps. You know, we have a surprisingly low number of monks in the game. You know, we have an abundance of rogues and quite a few bards as well. You know, very few barbarians. And so we're always kind of like looking for more of those. But at the same time, we're also working with lots of different, you know, groups that we quite frankly really enjoy working with. And we really had a positive experience with it. And, you know, those things are, you know, they can somewhat disrupt the attempt to be as diverse as possible, because it seems like a lot of the protagonists, both from books and comics, are like humans and elves, like the more mainstream fantasy races. As well, they're really popular with people who play D&D, disproportionately so compared to other races. I mean, I maintain that the reason people play humans so much in 5e is actually because variant humans are just categorically overpowered because they start with a feat, but yeah, you know, there isn't a massive variety of the characters being, you know, point of view characters in books and in comics and so on. So, you know, like that kind of has leaned us more towards fantasy stuff, which is why we went out of our way to go with a monstrous race with Korth, because like, hey, we don't have any monstrous races really. We want more of them. You know, we got a couple kobolds, and so we went with a lizard folk, and then, you know, if we can fit more in, we will. Should I take Narak out to fix that glitch? So it's like what you choose to do with it, Iltasign, is up to you. It's something that we're aware of and that we're going to address with one of the updates coming up. At which point you would reload, and then the boss will kill you. You know, you'll wipe. So yeah, and the reason the damage is so low is because you clearly reached a boss that has, you know, should be killing you. And isn't, because Dritz is missing, and you've left it there long enough that they've been slowly chipping away at the boss's health. So you could also, I guess, leave it long enough to kill it. Most characters start with feet, except my gelatinous cube rogue. What? I don't even know what that means. I don't know how far developers are on the designs of Lucius from High Rollers, but could one of his specializations be Lucius putting on the fairy crown, turning him into a trickster fey-like creature? I mean, I don't think we're at that point. 7 below, but I will pass that along to the devs. It's funny because just to speak on that subject a little bit, when we are adapting characters for the game, taking a character from the novels or the comics or whatever, like when we're going to put in a character the from the comic books that Jim Zub works on, we talk to Jim Zub, and when we're going to put in a character from AC Inc., we talk to Amy T. Falcone about Walnut, right? So part of the design a huge amount of the design of those characters, because they are owned by somebody, is well, I guess Minsk is owned by Wizards of the Coast, but we talk to people who have the most intimate connection with those characters, and we try to focus on what their vision of the character is. So if that's what's wanted for Lucius, then that's what we'll do. But yeah. Is Zorbu currently broken as a DPS? After the level cap upgrade, I was reaching 510. With Zorbu as DPS, I now reach 540, and his first 5 slots are blue, and no, I haven't farmed excessively. I mean, not as far as I know, Scuda 33. Are you saying that Zorbu needs a nerf? One of his items, and how this has been received varies from player to player, but one of his items went from a all champion DPS across the entire party to just a Zorbu increased DPS, and then the number was increased. But in addition to that, his kit was, reworked, and he has scaling damage with his lifelong enemies and stuff now that wasn't there before. So like he is viable in a way that he never was previously. So, yeah. I don't know if he's broken as a DPS, but certainly we expected to see some improvements. So if he was your primary DPS and you are now making it 20, 30 areas further, that sounds about right. Jack's not funny. Are there any plans to update the mouse and keyboard UI? So it's something that we would like to do at some point. Like we've talked a bit about it, and we learned a lot of lessons building the gamepad UI, and we created a lot of new assets for it, and we look at the mouse and keyboard UI, and it's like, okay, what can we do to improve this? Like, there's always that desire to iterate and improve if we can. But that doesn't mean that we will. It's something that we would like to do, but it requires a massive amount of time and human hours to redo an interface. They take a really long time to do, and so it's actually like a really, really big project to approach. So while we might do it at some point, it's not something that we are focused on at the moment. Alrighty. Speaking of gearing up non-basic champions, I'd also like to have more options than blacksmith contracts. Let me buy event chests, even if only silver and containing stuff for all champion. I don't care. I won't get... Okay. Yeah, I mean, we'll keep that in mind. It's the economy of the game is something that requires a delicate touch, and is something that is very much on the minds of anybody who wants to make adjustments to it. So like putting in a new shop, selling different things, allowing players to buy different things, etc. Like, at the end of the day, like this game is free to play, and we're happy that players take advantage of that and play it to death, and earn lots of stuff, and have managed to not spend any money. And on the flip side, like games aren't made for free. We have a company that's full of people who have families and like keeping the lights on and keeping people supported. So we also really like it when people spend money on the game, and like trying to balance it so that we're not just exploiting our players, and we're like trying to make sure that there's it's possible to complete everything by playing for free, but also like, hey, like we encourage you to support us too, please. It's a challenging thing. So I leave that to the Justins and Chris's and Daves. I don't know why I said that plural. I mean, there's one of each of them, but like I leave it to the people who actually run the game and the company to decide how to approach that kind of stuff. With enough lines for a novel, when will we see an Idle Champions novel? That's a great question that I have no answer for. Why Vernie when? There's an idea we were talking about at one point, and maybe you guys will think this is cool. So let me know if you think it's cool. It's not something that we've decided to do or not to do, but we have talked about the idea of taking adventures from our game, whether it's Grand Rebel or one of the adventures like Mad Wizard, and actually writing 5e adventure supplements of it, so that there would be an idle champions on, I don't know, let's say DM's Guild had it, like we just dumped it on there, and it was like Grand Tour of the Sword Coast, and it was like 10 adventures from that, and like actually done out with the links to the monsters and everything statted out, and etc. That's something that we would like, the D&D nerds in us would love to do that. That would be so cool. And we have access to all the people who actually write those things. Like, we work with Scott Fitzgerald Gray already, who has written tons of stuff for D&D, as well as a lot of other really awesome folks like Satine Phoenix or whatever. And like, so we've fantasized and talked about doing something like that, using a lot of the literature that we've created for the game. But it's very expensive, very time consuming, and it doesn't, like, there's no business case for it increasing the number of people who play our game, which at the end of the day is what we want with all these kinds of efforts that we put in. We just want more people to play. So, we would very much love to do that. But will it happen? I don't know. Maybe never. But it's like, we've always liked the idea that there are players who play D&D who play our game, and they're like, oh, I haven't seen one of those monsters before, or I hadn't considered it before, like, you don't see a lot of Sahuagin, unless you're playing Ghost of Saltmarsh. But, like, looking at it and, like, using it as inspiration, using it as inspiration would be, is something that we really love. And so taking that a step further and putting the literal inspiration, like, here is this an adventure in D&D, and like, this was taken from this game. Like, we like that idea. That would be very, very cool. Yeah, it's fun. Why do monsters come in groups of 25? It'd be fun to try and sneak in some callbacks like that. Like, hey, there's a golden crow flying across this forest. This murder of crows contains one that is golden. Just like, whatever. That would be cool, but it's a lot of work, and it's definitely not something that's we're really considering seriously. But yeah, that would be cool. So maybe someday. Are the High Rollers the first non-Forgotten Realms characters in the game? Non-Forgotten Realms, I believe so. Yeah, because Eros is not a part of the Forgotten Realms. Wait, no, sorry. The first non-Forgotten Realms character is Warden, because Warden is from Eberron originally. Eberron, and then all the dark places everywhere. But yeah, Warden was the first one. That was the end of 2018 when we added Warden to the game. That's my baby. Will we ever be able to get some of the past skins that we may have missed? Sorry, Argon Tursa, I was stumbling over that. I have to choose my words very carefully around that kind of question. We are considering ways for players to be able to earn or unlock, or maybe purchase, depending on which context, in some way, we are considering ways for players to get things that they've missed. I know that's not a definitive answer, but it's a tricky thing to answer. Yeah. Your Mimic Familiar slowly pacing back and forth on the screen taunts me. Will there be other Mimic Familiars coming? They are my favorite monster. We haven't even decided whether or not our Mimic might return. It was part of the year 1 anniversary celebration, and that's a tricky question. It's something that we're looking at. Can I start a campaign to get Kat's Genasi Cleric in the game? Oh yeah, Tessus Shadebrook. So it's funny you should ask that, Willow's Watcher. I know I skipped a bunch of questions to answer one that I saw in chat just now, but good timing for Willow's Watcher. So I remember at one point when we were considering putting in a C&E original character that I was campaigning Chris, that like of the characters we have in our office D&D games, Tethys is one of the ones that is like well defined and unique enough to be really interesting. Like, so Water Genasi, who is also a vampire now because she lost a battle with a pack of wolves, and then Strahd murder bit her and turned her into a vampire spawn. And she's like fighting with Strahd for control of her own actions, and still has a connection to Lathander, but is also, struggling with the nature of having to feed on, living beings' blood every day to not go crazy and just murder us in our sleep. And Kat's added a lot of depth to Tethys, and Tethys looks really unique. And so, like, I was campaigning Chris to add them, and we don't really add our characters to the game. Like, it's just not something that we do. And like, when a C&E original opportunity comes up, we tend to focus on creating something that our game doesn't already have. Not to say that Tethys isn't unique enough, but I'll leave that to Chris and maybe Kat to talk out at some point. But like, personally, I think that Tethys would be a great addition to the game in a way that is different from every other character. Whereas my edgelord character Veshok, may he rest in peace, or pieces, depending on what happens when you fold planes of existence on each other and explode. He's just an edgelord character. It's basically Warden, but instead of being a corrupted Eldritch Warforged, was a Shadar-kai. But other than that, was basically Warden. So, would not be a good case, just as an example. Would an Azamar character ever fit into the game? I hope so. Off the top of my head, I can think of some people who play Azamars on live shows that would probably make for good characters. We would like to at some point. I don't know if or when it'll happen. Yeah. Are there any plans for characters that are really out of the box, like a thief rogue that heals with healer kits? Or do you prefer to stick to typical class fantasy concepts, example, stealth, backstabbing, and triggering traps? You know what? So there's room for that kind of creation. It's just not something that we've really approached or thought about. I know one player talked about having a tank champion who kind of Captain America's their way through the game. They've got like a tower shield and no other weapon, and they like everything they do is around defending allies and shielding and stuff like that. And like, there's a lot of ideas that are like outside the more trope or typical fantasy character concepts that we could approach, and like we look forward to mining that ground when we have the opportunity to. Yeah. But are there active plans right now for over the course of the next couple characters for something like that? No. Although I will say, players who have been wanting to have more magic-based characters, because this year we've been kind of going heavy on the martial characters so far. Players hoping for magic-based ones will be happy with our remaining quarter 3 selection. Okay, so if we're drawing from all of D&D history, who do I have to bribe so we can add in King Ubold Many Arrows? He's one of the few orcs to ever make a lasting effect on the realms, and he actually fought Dritz to a standstill. He would be great to add to an evil formation. Good point. I'm going to make a star for this one, Hellstream, and pass it along to Chris, and add it to the list of awesome characters that we would like to someday incorporate. It's a long list, but I will still add it. Barry Vaughn, awesome. Prediction. The anniversary will feature a skin for Jalaxel wearing 2 party hats. God. I'm going to pass that along to Adam so that he can rage, because we have talked about a skin for our anniversary. It was not for Jalaxel. But since nothing is finalized, I don't want to go too far down that road, because I don't want to say, oh yeah, it's a skin for so-and-so, and then disappoint everybody when it ends up being for another character. I just need a drink from water. Alrighty. I wish the alternate costume for Minsk wasn't him in a boo costume, but actually a giant boo with a tiny Minsk on his shoulder. Me too, Saucefire. But that would be a lot more challenging to it would be a lot more challenging to animate and create because Minsk, even wearing a Boo costume, is still Minsk shaped, so you could save a lot of time after you make the outfit and redraw them, layering pieces that are more or less the same, like using the same. I guess I could say in a sort of basic way, skeletal model. For the AI file to move the same. Like it's kind of like it's a lot easier to just transfer it over. Whereas Boo being a miniature giant space hamster or a giant miniature giant space hamster shaped would require all new animation. But maybe someday pass that along to Adam too. Any chance for Wolfgar to get a boost on his constitution? It feels wrong for a tank to have 14 con. Hey, I agree. If anybody's going to have more, it should be Wolfgar. So I'll pass it along, but it might get shot down. All the companions of the hall, we were given stat sheets for them from Wizards of the Coast. And like while they are snapshots of different versions of them throughout their history, yeah, there have been a lot of versions of each one of them across different editions of Dungeons and Dragons and stuff. So they have fluctuated. But yeah, I will make a note because we have another kind of odd bit of stats in the game in that Celeste still has base stats without racial bonuses added, according to 5e. So we should add that at some point. Willow's Watcher. How did I just now realize there are no Goliaths? It's true, there are no Goliaths. There are just in the game at all, anywhere actually. Never mind champions. We also do not have any. Oh. Is this Arveus 500? I need to pay attention to this or I'm going to die. Because, yeah. Click on the window for priority. I'm just going to play the game. Actually play this game for a moment. What is going on here? Oh, the controller. This thing started falling out. That's why it wasn't letting me do anything. Okay, I'm just going to use all the things because I want to kill the boss. And, yeah. I love it when Walnut turns into Wolfnut. I love transformation mechanics. That stuff's cool. Yeah. Anyways, I think at this level we're probably still going to easily burn through this guy. Or is Arveus female? I didn't read the chat just now, so I don't know the dragon's gender. Anyways, yeah, looks like we're going to be able to smoke them without too much worry. It's that overpowered mist thing. Otherwise, this dragon would just kill us. And look at Forest Friend still just chewing through armor. Oh, man. Boom. 500 down. Let's see if I can make it to 550 with this group. I don't know if I can, but... Actually, you know what I could... you know what I'm going to do? I'll use a few more potions. Where's the DPS ones? Gold. Health. There we go. See if that helps. We shall see, hey? We shall see. Okay. Back to it. Yeah, there are no Goliaths. There's a number of different things. Oh, I see the next question after that is like, when are we going to get a Triton? Is it one of... It's one of Ashar's bonds, but we still don't have one. Yeah, you know, it's funny is because I've also been campaigning Justin. I'm like, we should do one for like, bonds for cold-blooded races and have, lizard folk and turtles and, Sahaugen or whatever. Like just start building it out even more. But yeah. Are the weekend golden epics coming back anytime soon? The only thing I can say on that subject is that it's something that we have planned for, and it's just a matter of having time in our schedule to implement. Yeah. Let's see. I've got another one I have been thinking about recently, and it goes along the line of Evergreen/Event Champions. When all of your Evergreen Champions are equipped with shiny gear, I'm not there yet, will there be no more shiny drops from chests, or would you get potions of shininess? Neither. So what happens is, and this is something that's on our list that we are aware of, just so everybody knows, but what happens is when you have no available slots for a new shiny and you earn one, you only get item levels equal to that item, as opposed to getting a significant increase like you would from getting a shiny. So it's yeah. I don't have anything I can announce about how we're going to look at that, but it's something that we're very much aware of, especially now that we are reaching a point where there are more players getting there. You know, it used to be that there was only a very tiny number of players who reached that point, but that number is growing, so it's something it's on our minds. Don't worry. Is there any chance there is a way to transfer games between platforms? I started on mobile and have an investment of time and money in my characters. So we don't offer cross-platform play just because we're on quite a few platforms. And so it's not something that is a general rule that we do. Manning 5916. So yeah, sorry. Should we anticipate a fourth tier of blessings for Waterdeep Dragon Heist? What I can say on the subject of blessings is that yes, we will eventually be adding more, but that's as far as I can go. Sorry. Alrighty. This is for Garwar and Dylan. Would it ever be a future idea to host Garwar on stream? You know what? So that's a funny thing. We talked about it once before, and it didn't end up happening. And we just haven't talked about it again. And obviously, here I am today by myself on stream. Today would have been a perfect day to have Garwar on. So I'm going to make a note here because we tend to plan out our guests pretty far in advance. This note is for me. So, yeah, I will make a note about it, and we will find a time. Because, yeah, I've been meaning to schedule a Garwar call/chat live stream at some point. And so, yeah, we should definitely do that. Option to buy increased bulk silver chests, like 100 at a time. I mean, I could pass that along, Abstract Oak Bow, but that's going to be a low priority. I get why people would want to do that, but yeah. Is Shandy hating Delina a canon thing? Because explosive arrows buffing ahead while Delina wants to be on the rear end is weird. I hear you. Yeah, it's an interesting thing in that, you know, like I love Delina's current design a lot. It's very potent, and Delina's problem has traditionally always been that she's in an extremely competitive slot in slot 8. You know, you're using Hitch or Volanya as your buffer, most likely, which means you're never using Delina as your DPS. Or now that Narak is awesome, you're using Narak to use Githra, and his Githrai focus, and now Walnut too. Yeah, it's a good slot. So that makes Delina so much less appealing because she's not a support or buffer. And it's just like a very powerful DPS champion with great scaling abilities, but she does not have the support network of champions across other slots to allow her to be your main DPS in a competitive formation, like top tier stuff. You can complete the vast majority of what's in the game with her, but you will not be able to complete the most top end stuff probably with Delina as your DPS instead of other ones. So that's a shame. Shandy doesn't hate Delina. I mean, they're companions, right? Like they're part of the party. But they do not work well together currently. And yeah, it's something that's on our minds. We're very happy with where Minsk is now. We're pretty happy with Neris. And we're very happy with Shandy so far. And yeah, Delina just doesn't have a place in that lineup right now, and it's sad. It makes me sad. So I don't know. I think I'll pass that along. You're not the only one who's feeling something like that, and maybe we'll be able to do something about it. Maybe not. Are there any plans to introduce legendary tier items similar to the ones in Crusaders of the Lost Idols? The only thing I can say about that is, like, while they were built with some of the same ingredients off the bat, and even some of the same code, Idle Champions of Forgotten Realms is not Crusaders of the Lost Idols. We do not intend to develop the game along the exact same path. Will there be other item tiers in the future? Maybe. But it's not something we're looking at doing right now. Kralili, is there a possibility we will get an option to replay variants even for no reward? I could say yes to that. Yes. Uh, I can't go further on it, but yes. Our Green Paradox. If we get a Circle of the Moon Druid, will we get elemental transformations? God, I hope so. I'm gonna make a note on that for Chris. Because yeah, it's like the coolest thing. Once your Circle of the Moon Druid hits what, level 10 or 11 when you get that, that is rad. It's super rad. Also, if you're a min-maxing jerk, like some of us sometimes are, um, you can do cool things like have one level in barbarian for your druid, and while you lose the capstone if you ever get to 20, which like who gets to play to 20, but if you get to the, if you're not going to get to the capstone, consider a level in barbarian, because a number of the shapeshift forms can rage, and if you level up to 3 in barbarian, say totem, go with bear totem. When you rage, you have resistance to all damage except psychic, as well as like your strength bonuses and stuff. And those bonuses may apply to some of your abilities depending on what you transform into. But who doesn't want to have who doesn't want to be a raging bear that is also resistant to nearly all damage, or a raging other thing? Like it's bananas, bananas. So try it out someday. Maybe you're doing a one shot with some friends. You're one shotting the Tomb of Horrors or something like that, and you got a high level character. Try out a raging druid. It's nuts, super fun. Yeah. I spent an entire encounter as a raging octopus. It was bonkers. That sounds great, Hellstream. I love D&D. And I'm gonna use this as a moment to start talking about our Office D&D game because shit went sideways. I know we got a few more questions here, but I'm going to go into this now because I want to, and I can. So in our Office Curse of Strahd campaign, we started it 18 months ago, maybe longer, and we started with a party who have since then, every member except for one has died. Now, one of them was lucky enough to come back, and when I say lucky, is a vampire spawn in the service of Strahd. But the others, our warlock collapsed dimensions together to kill a monster and is MIA, presumed dead. Our rogue, our elf rogue or half elf rogue, died and was devoured by a devourer. Our druid was hit by Finger of Death, killed, and subsequently became a zombie that was then also killed. And we are now in the midst of a fight in the Amber Temple, fighting a death slod that is proving a challenge, since death slods are no joke. And it's just kicking the shit out of us so far. Yeah. So in today's campaign, we get attacked by the Death Slod. It poisons this huge hallway that we're all in, which thankfully I'm playing a UNT, so poison's no big deal. But we don't know the motivations of the Death Slod, and it just starts mangling us, right? And I am trying to be really helpful with my sorcerer. I twinned haste onto our cleric, Tethys actually, and myself to give us more AC, another action. Like, let's do this, and like he runs up to me and hits me and rolls so well that even though I also used shield and I had 27 AC, I still got smoked by this death slot, failed my con save, lost haste for myself and our cleric, costing me, a spell slot, a bunch of sorcery points, and 2 rounds of combat, and our cleric 1 round of combat, as it turns out, just with the turn order. Just ravaged. And then So haste is a risky spell to use, by the way, people. At least when you don't have a super high con to win the con check for concentration. So that went bad, and we have a temporary ally with us that was started as an NPC, and then when our druid was killed, the player who plays our druid, Nick, is now playing the ally, and he's playing him very well. But the ally is well, not really an ally, is working with us. Warcaster would be nice, Argreen Paradox, and if this character lives long enough, I'll totally get it. But I don't have it yet. And so this is a little bit of spoilers for Curse of Strahd, so if you're interested in playing that campaign and going in and not knowing anything, maybe go la 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 for the next 30 seconds. But in the Amber Temple, it's also, in addition to being a repository for knowledge, it is also a tomb for wizards. And the tomb rooms have these amber sarcophagi that are basically filled with the spirits of these different wizards. And if you touch them, they may offer you things, and they will offer it to you at a price. And this wizard ally touches one, grows hair all over his body, and becomes super resilient, and then touches another one and gets a crazy amount of strength. And is basically now this super tough, raging, evil bully / just rager. Basically kind of half turned himself into a guerrilla barbarian. And is evil AF and not super helpful. And my character is a little greedy and saw this happening, realized that this was happening, and in their mind is I want this stuff. So it's racing them for these boons and starts grabbing them willy-nilly, and it's to say that our entire encounter has gone to shit and just is putting it mildly. So just so that MK get go. But anyways, it's going sideways, and tomorrow's maybe we'll finish the rest of this encounter. But it's been real interesting. Yes, we are in trouble, but it's the awesome kind of trouble because my replacement character, Selena Taliazasi, is kind of selfish. She's driven, and the only ways in which she's not selfish is when it comes to the crew of her ship. But she lost her entire crew going into this, and while she has allies right now that she's growing to respect, she's in it for herself. And so when she sees what's happening, she approaches it in a pretty selfish, I need to survive, this is for me kind of way. Which is just making for a really interesting thing, because before we knew it, we didn't intend it, but our party started Curse of Strahd as a party of good aligned characters. And we are now playing a party where 3 of the 4 characters are evil and 1 of them is neutral. So, yeah, it's super interesting. And a lot of fun. And I look forward to it whenever we get to play, on the rare occasion that we're all actually here. Next question. I know Minsk is a ranger, but man, does the heroes of Baldur's Gate need a better tank. 2 rogues, a sorcerer, and a ranger is super bad. That's a good point. I think you're forgetting Neris, by the way, because Neris is a cleric, and clerics are super tanky. She's also a war cleric. Granted, she doesn't have a shield; she's got her greatsword. But if any of those characters should be a tank, it should be Neris, right? Yeah, I'm gonna make a note there for Chris / Justin, because yeah. That's kind of how I've played a cleric a lot in my home Tomb of Annihilation campaign. I play a death domain cleric that's at level 8, and if you're a more martial cleric, and you've got heavy armor, death domain clerics don't, but if you've got good armor and a shield, and you tend to be in the thick of it, and then you're using spiritual weapon as support DPS, but you're mostly you're using your actions to heal and support your allies while your spiritual weapon's bonking away. So maybe we do something like that for Neris in the future. I don't know. Don't take that as a commitment to doing that, but I will pass along that, hey, they don't have a tank, so maybe Neris should be the tank. Alrighty, conspicuous compiler. Is there a chance we might ever get cardboard or tin level chests, which are guaranteed to fill in white/green slots? For the completionists of us, it is sometimes vexing to have these open equipment slots at the bottom end. I hear you. This is something that we're very much aware of, and there's nothing we can share about how we might plan to address it because it would be totally hypothetical. But I can tell you that we are very much aware. Simarati. Is it Simarati or Skimarati? I'm assuming it's Simarati. When are we going to the Mithril Hall? We should go there. I don't know. To be honest, even though I know that there's more Grand Tour adventures coming in August, I haven't actually personally look up to see what they are. So I don't know when we might go to the Mithril Hall, but I will let Chris know that that's something that you are looking forward to. Do you ever miss unfun mechanics in 5e, such as level drain or instant death spells? Yes and no. So I think that the only thing that makes encounters exhilarating and exciting is the chance that you could lose. But at the same time, some things are really just not fun. Like those traps. You fall into a pit. The walls are perfectly Teflon coated, smooth, 30 feet down, like outside your possible jumping or climbing or whatever range. So you can't ever climb up, and you fall into a pit of acid that does this much damage per turn. It's like a trap that's designed to perfectly be able to kill a character who can't fly or like immediately teleport out of it somehow. And like there's a place for that in D&D if you know that risk is coming. But something like a spell where you just like instantly kill a player, I'm not as much of a fan of. Like I like that you roll to see whether or not you'd survive. Because there's a chance that you will fail, but there's always a chance that you will live. And I don't like guaranteed stuff so much, because I think that's not much fun. Now that being said, if you love playing through Tomb of Horrors and like coming to your game table with each of you having like 50 character sheets to work your way through to maybe get through, but probably not. I mean, cool. Like that's different strokes, different folks. But I enjoy RPing, and I enjoy the dynamic that our group has at the table right now for our Curse of Strahd campaign, because it's been a bleak, horrible time in Barovia, and nobody's happy, and now everybody's evil. So like, who knows what's going to happen? But it's a lot of fun. Not knowing what's going to happen is fun for me. Usually around this time, somebody asks me what the weekend graphics or weekend promo is going to be, etc. Like who's it going to be, who's it going to include, etc. So maybe I should do that after I see if I can actually clear this level, because I think I'm at 520. I don't know if I can actually get past this. Oh yeah, Walnut's already dead. No, I can't get past this. Derp. I should have been paying attention before she died. I'm also going to take the Mimic off the ultimate. There we go. Maybe what I'll do is I will put him on player attack. Alrighty, so everybody's actually alive right now. Oh yeah, this is where Walnut starts to get a little less useful, is you're approaching your wall, so you haven't been killing enemies, and so you don't have as much of a buff. What am I going to do about this? What do I want to do about this? I will probably have to wait for all my ultimates to come back, and then I will have to time using them in order to succeed. Okay, I'll have to let it sit here for a bit. And they might die here too. Good old forest friends. Yeah, just clear out some of them enemies. I don't think I even have I used a... Oh, I've already got one. Okay, good. Huh. Interesting. Um, do you ever make a competition for us to create a champion? I've been asked this before, Puchan. It's something that we've considered, but I don't know if it's something that we're planning on doing anytime soon. Isn't Escape from the Underdark a meat grinder type campaign? That's a great question. I haven't played Escape from the Underdark, so I don't know. But somebody who's knowledgeable of it could tell me. Alrighty. What do we got? One more character suggestion for a champion. Camuriel Oblodra, Jarlaxle's partner in crime. He's a psionic user, but he could also be stylized like a wizard, like how Spurt is a rogue. Evil as heck and pure cold drow logic. Signature ability, character absorb damage and then reflect it back. Great as a support. Yeah, I can pass that along. You guys, I mean, it'll never get circulated because it's for internal use only. But I put together some pretty massive write-ups about player feedback and citing examples from different posts and so on and so forth. So believe me when I say that this dude does come along. Is this the first time nobody asked about Critical Role characters? Damn it. Yeah, unlikely to have Critical Role characters in our game. As much as we would love it and as awesome as it would be, it is probably not in the cards, unfortunately. I mean, it's funny because we love working with them and everything, but they are very busy and very focused on the way that they're approaching Critical Role and what they want to do with it. And so yeah, I would personally be very surprised if we got the characters in the game, but oh god, it would be awesome if we could. We would love to. I'll shill for you. So, Dylan, what are the weekend buffs? Well, our Green Paradox. The weekend buffs are for Deacon, Celeste, Delena, Makos, and Zorbu. Yeah, I don't know if we have a name for it yet. Let me double check. Ranged assets. Weekend. Ranged assets? Oh, man, Chris, come on, man. Ranged assets. Anyways, yeah, so Deacon, Celeste, Delena, Makos, and Zorbu this weekend. That's some decent buffing champions in there, so it should be interesting for some players. Alrighty, expendable fodder. Well, I'm digging the first part of the Year 1 champion update. My companion's party is my best party by far. The unfortunate downside is that my Farida has fallen pretty far behind despite some investment. I expect fulcrum shifts, but I'm also hoping for some new support for her coming soon. I mean, we're a little ways off looking at Farida because we have the rest of the Year 1 champion balance update to look at. We'll be hitting Year 3, and then we will be hitting the Year 3 of Farida's event. So, yeah. I don't know what to say about when to expect it because priorities can shift and I don't want to promise anything that we can't deliver. But, we will definitely be taking a look to see if there's anything that we might do to tweak when her event comes around. Otherwise, it would be with a Year 2 related champion update. Who are you voting for in the D&D Beyond Critical Role election? That is a great question, Lauren. Liam. Absolutely Liam. No hesitation, Liam. Because Liam voiced Illidan Stormrage, and, does it get more edgelordy than Illidan Stormrage? I don't think it does. And, it's a well-documented fact of how much I like edgelords. I mean, Warden is a total edgelord. Veshok is a total edgelord. I don't want to say that I'm an edgelord because I'm not anymore. But, yeah, voting Liam all the way. Yeah. Though I will concede that Sam has had some savage rebuttals that I laughed very hard at. But yeah, for me it was never a question. I would have voted Liam either way. Is the same event model going to be used for the upcoming Year 3? I can't. There's nothing I can even remotely say about that yet, Silisa. What can I say about it? Can I say anything about it? I could say that we will start talking about year three events closer to year three. The things that are very much on our radar right now that we are most focused on are the things leading up to our anniversary celebration, because there are other things in there. Uh, it says the man in the Death Saves shirt that I'm not an edgelord. Yeah, hey, yeah. Whoop. Touche. Good point, Hellastream. Um, anyways, yeah, it's too early to talk about what we're going to do with year three events because we have a lot of other stuff that we're very much focused on, and we're not done planning it. Yeah, it's 2 months old. Yeah, oh yeah, but there are things in the next month that we are much more focused on. As I mentioned, there's the stuff that's currently listed in the Q3 2019 roadmap that was in the Q&A, but also there are things that are not mentioned in that we are also working on. So, yeah. Edgelords play loner players with black hair who hate people and they role play all sulky and moody, tend to have weapons with a lot of unnecessary spikes. Yeah. If you've ever watched the shows Buffy or Angel, Angel is an edgelord. um, if you've ever watched, yeah, they're just like that, like sulky loner, anti-hero type who, Angel's an edgelord. That's just emo. Well, maybe. Yeah, I guess Spike is more edgelordy. Yeah. Anyways, I don't know if I'm painting a good enough picture because it's just such an interesting and odd phrasing to use. Is Vegeta an edgelord? Oh, well, maybe. Kind of. Huh, never thought about it. Alrighty. Is there any update on bench champions being what they can do? No, Summon Satan, there isn't anything I can get into about that. Yeah. I forgot about that Simply 215. That Spike literally killed somebody with a railroad spike because they said his poetry was bad. It's true. Oh god, yeah. Spike is totally the edgelord. Man, that's funny because Spike was one of my favorite characters. Anyways, it's mostly because James Marsters killed it. Did such a good job. Will characters from the Forgotten Realms books ever be considered? Okay, we have Dragonbait, who was originally from the Azure Bonds, but went on to other adventures. So, yes, characters from other Forgotten Realms novels are considered. Yeah, that's really all I can say on it. I don't want to spoil things. I'll get in trouble. I'll get yelled at as soon as I finish. I don't want to have that happen. Since the third anniversary is officially the leather anniversary, does this mean all rangers are getting buffed? I don't know. I mean, Dritz is already pretty OP. Yeah. I see somebody said Dark Sun in chat, and I don't know why, but Dark Sun is the best setting ever, and also kind of edgelordy. And I also really liked Raceland Majir in Dragonlance, total edgelord. I'm revealing things about myself that I don't want to. Nah, actually, I don't really care, but yeah. Yeah. Oh man, inside all of us is an edgelord. You just have to cut them out. What else can I say about that stuff? It's funny because I like being able to spoil stuff, but like the only people who can really just spoil stuff willy nilly off the top of their heads are Chris and Justin because they work on things and they know what they're going to put into the game. So if they say it's happening, it probably is. Whereas like I have conversations with them, and so I don't always know everything that's coming. Yeah. Any chance for a totally unique Puffy the Paladin who slays vampires champion? Probably not a direction we're going to go in. Just because, as much as we do have creative leeway with how we build characters, ultimately everything does go through approvals with Wizards of the Coast and the D&D team. So, Puffy the Paladin is unlikely to become an idle champion. Sorry, but I like where your head's at. Are there any Ravnica characters planned? No. at least not currently. First of all, like no story characters from Ravnica or Magic the Gathering are likely to ever appear in a Idle Champions of Forgotten Realms because we're Forgotten Realms focused. It's not part of Magic, and like while there is a crossover book in a way with Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica, it's just unlikely to happen. Now that being said, races from Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica because things do, get sucked between, get accidentally teleported to, or purposely travel throughout the multiverse. Hey, a Loxodon might make it into the game. A Vidalcan, you know. Lobo is the supreme edgelord. Aces high 70s. That is true. Lobo is the most edgelordy product of like the 80s, 90s I could possibly imagine. Just along with like, you notice how like every comic character in the 90s just had like too many spikes because they were all edgelords, like Strife or Wolverine, or just the way that like they were designed. And like, yeah, I know that Rob Liefeld drew a lot of that stuff, but Spawn is as edgelordy as it could possibly be. Nalvos is correct. Yeah, it's weird. Any chance? No, I already read that one. Question for Dylan: as the face of Idle Champions, have you ever been recognized on the street from this game? And have you ever thought that every week more and more people see your face? I haven't. I know I haven't been recognized in the street. I go to a con or like a D&D related event, then sometimes people recognize me, and cool. It's kind of weird though. Like it's not something I'm used to. Yeah, but hey, if it happens more, cool. Did you ever figure out what to do with your Dragon Heist campaign? Oh, that's a good question, Mate Pie. I did. I'm gonna fudge with the timelines a bit, and I'm gonna present the players with some options. So I'm like planning some like very rough ideas of a few different directions everything can go in depending on a few of the decisions. Yeah, I am. Yeah, Shatterstar is edgelordy. Yeah, Shatterstar is ridiculously edgelordy, down to the swords having spikes, having multiple blades, Shatterstar super edgelord, which is probably why Shatterstar was insta killed in Deadpool 2. Spoilers. Anyways, yeah, I don't really get recognized, and doing with the Dragon Heist. I'm going to tempt the players in the Dragon Heist campaign. Yeah, this is my home campaign, not the one that I'm doing for some of the office folks on the rare occasion we get to play it. I cannot stress this enough. Tell Justin to seriously consider a flump champion, and then you're laughing. Flumps. I can promise that, at least one flump will make it into Idle Champions someday. Is Caterly Bonaducci considered as a possible next champion? Yes, I know many others could be considered too. As for the next champions, our next champions are already decided, actually. Real Sidar. Yeah. We do know and have designed and locked in who the next couple characters are after Shandy. So Caterly Bonaducci is not one of them, sorry to say. But there's always a chance that one of them, maybe. Yeah. Hopefully 3 of their 4 options lead to a TPK. That's pretty savage. I don't want to TPK this group because I don't think they would take it well. Like there are people who played enough D&D and lost enough characters and played enough different contexts where like if a TPK happens, they don't feel super let down by it. But I think this group, it would be hard for them to take. Yeah. So I'm trying not to TPK them. But I also want it to be challenging, so there will always be the chance of a TPK if they roll really bad or something, Imagine an edgelord flump hero. No such thing, Martypedia. You take that back. Flumps are flumps. They don't also get to be edgelords. No way. Kron seems more emo. Kron is pretty emo. Yeah. I wouldn't describe him as an edgelord either. He's just kind of emo. Oh, I'm sad. I'm Kron. Nobody liked me, so I worked out for a whole year to get tough. God, the amount we've been talking about emo and edgelords is, I gotta say, it's like even a little bit startling to me. Alrighty. So let's see. Definitely want spurts buff. Definitely want the shield on everybody. And then I'm just gonna dump out everything to try and get this boss down. Oh, come on. Die, you buggers. Yeah. There we go. 520 down. Boom. All it took was every ult. It's funny because I'm sure there's somebody with an Arcan formation who's just like, are like at 600 right now. I'm looking at you, Ronan. Yeah. Have you, quote, fixed the next characters? Well, I mean, we don't intend to break them. I mean, sometimes we're really happy with our initial design, and other times we're not. And we're very good. I'm getting called out only a little bit. You became 500 times cooler now that I know you're a Buffy and Angel fan. Yeah, I loved. So I watched those as they were aired. Loved them both, and enough so that more than one woman I dated throughout my 20s I made watch. And my wife, we watched all of Buffy and Angel from start to finish, in order, including alternating episodes of Buffy and Angel once they were running simultaneously, as the second and third shows we watched once we got together. The first being the 2003 version of Battlestar Galactica. We watched that first. Willow's Watcher got your name from Buffy. Nice. Carol Jordan, my wife, made me watch Buffy. I thank her for it. Yeah, and man, even though it was a long time ago, and a lot of it, I was still a teenager when I was watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel, and you grow out of a lot of those hormones and feelings, and a lot of the stuff in it you just kind of you don't feel the same way about anymore. You kind of grow past it. I have wept openly every time I've watched the episode where Buffy loses her mom. I can't not. If anything, it gets more emotional as you get older every time you see it. It's devastating. And there's a number of episodes they have that are devastating to watch. It doesn't matter how much older you get, Fred becoming Illyria, that episode, Amy Acker's performance, devastating. The episode of Buffy and Angel where Angel is cured and he has the opportunity to be human and live a normal life and live it out with Buffy, or to stay himself and stay a vampire. The sign up code is edgelord. Thanks, Erica. That episode of Buffy where Angel chooses to continue his mission rather than choose a happy life ever after with Buffy, devastating. When Cordelia comes back in season 5 of Angel, as EGN Smith put out, just devastating. They twist the knife. They twist that emotional knife in Chris Perkinsian ways. Joss Whedon-y ways, but throughout the entire series. Willow losing Tara. God, there's so many. You guys are going to make me cry on stream just thinking about all the most brutal emotional parts of a series that was that intense. Firefly was great too, but it didn't hit you as hard just because it was so short-lived. If that series had been on for years. But man, there were some brutal ones, and it's the episode, The Body, is the name of the episode that where Buffy's mom passes away, and they foreshadow it through the series. She kind of mentions to Buffy that she had some tests from the doctor, they didn't go well, she was waiting for things, and then she's talks about how in advance of it happening, she talks about how there are side effects, and they have to be wary of different things, and then she just comes home and there's no music in that episode. Oh man, it was just absolutely savage. Yeah. Dollhouse is an underrated Joss Whedon show, Simply 25. I totally agree. It's probably because the first season was real bad, and it took a while to get rolling. But the second season was fantastic, and there was a lot of good stuff in it. I highly recommend Dollhouse to anyone who has the patience to get through it, which you might not, because Yeah, that was not an easy one. What the hell? Oh, this controller keeps falling out. And then the Forest Friends, which are just so good at murdering everything. Ah, overpowered ult. 525, huh? Alrighty then. So yeah. Yes, I watched Buffy and Angel. Anya's line of the body? Oh god, yeah. Have to watch sci-fi, watch Firefly if you can watch sci-fi western. I thought it was great. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was beautiful. There was some great stuff on Firefly in a very small amount of time. It just has so much charm, right? And the cast was great. Yeah. Oh man, you're making me kind of want to watch it again. I guess it's only like 14 episodes, so it doesn't take long. It was a God, man, getting dry. It was a true gift for Firefly to have a film to wrap it up, because like most things don't. So, yeah. Saffron, what do you think of The Expanse? Have you seen it? I have read all but the latest novels in the Expanse series, and watched the 3 seasons of the show, and they are doing a phenomenal job. It is the best science fiction show currently on television. Better even than Westworld, in my opinion. Yeah, it's magnificent. It's so well done. And I hope that now that they're on Amazon, they get to approach it with a little bit more of a budget, because the series of The Expanse, like the show is such a great adaptation of it, but it's reined in. Like the conflicts and the stuff that's happening in the universe in the books is much grander, with more ships, bigger battles, etc. in the books than in the TV show. So I'm hoping now that, I mean, Amazon does have all the money in the world, like they just have it. So I'm hoping that as they move forward, they can afford to expand upon that stuff, because, oh boy, if you're only watching the shows and you don't read the books, you are in for a treat with the direction it goes in. Yes, I've seen Cowboy Bebop. Yes, I've seen Trigun. Yes, I've seen Umbrella Academy. Trigun's amazing. Cowboy Bebop's amazing. I liked Cowboy Bebop more than Trigun, but they're both fantastic. Both space westerny kind of stuff. And Umbrella Academy was great because it had Clouth. Yeah. How about Good Omens? I like the book Good Omens a lot better than the show. The show was a lot of fun, but the book was just, I don't know, it was just a little bit, there was a charm to Terry Pratchett's writing that didn't make it into the show. And I'm not saying the show is bad, because I thought it was great. Like the on-screen chemistry between Michael Sheen and David Tennant is phenomenal. A lot of the show was great, and it was like narrated by Francis McDormand, and like, it's got Mike McKean in it, who I love because he's hilarious. Like a lot of stuff in it was absolutely brilliant. But I just like, I've already read the book, and it just like, it wasn't still exciting for me in the same way. It just didn't get me as much. So I thought Good Omens is a great show and everybody should watch it, but it didn't blow me away. I really liked the book a lot. I don't think many Americans understand most of the English jokes. Yeah, I mean, in Canada, we kind of like we grow up with BBC shows being a core part of like what our television viewing and stuff like that, and like maybe that's not the case in America, but there's a lot of humor that's missed. Yeah, yeah. Anyways, we're getting towards the end of the episode, so I should probably start wrapping things up. And so let's see. I'm going to go through these 2 questions really quickly. Are there any plans to merge the 2 UIs for a more friendly display? There aren't, but there aren't. Why aren't there any hill dwarves? That's a great question. Who is the most famous hill dwarf in the Forgotten Realms? Let me know. In the meantime, this has been our show for Thursday, July 25th, 2019. Thank you all so much for joining us and for participating in both the Idle Champions and Dungeons and Dragons communities. There's a fair amount of overlap there, but like, welcome. We're happy you're here. You guys are awesome. Glad you came. This show exists because of quite a few amazing and dedicated folks behind the scenes, including my amazing and impeccably brilliant co-producer Erica, as well as our partners at Dungeons and Dragons, Greg, Bart, Pelham, Allison, Shaoling, Lisa. Probably more people contributing that I don't even know, but like it's great to be able to work with them. Welch's Game Juice is up next, followed by the one and only Critical Role. Take care, champions. Have a wonderful weekend and vote Liam. Thank you.